2023, and the definition of a man has not changed, but it applies to just more than a biological male. In this episode, we'll discuss the making of a man and determine if it's society or just our outdated definition of a man. Remember, we are live. Check out your YouTube channel and IG for clips at Jerk Jollof Collar Pod. Follow us at Jerk Jollof Pod on Instagram for more podcast-related content, or send us your questions, feedback, topic suggestions, and thoughts. Interested in joining the show? Hit us up at jjcpod@gmail.com. Like, share, follow, and leave us a review. Gentlemen, welcome. We have a guest. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this man and the excitement leading up to him showing up tonight. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, come on, man. You gotta come with
Brother.
more energy than that.
Like, another mother.
Do we need a beep 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 beep?
Yeah,
I'm gonna find it and edit it in.
Need a flare. Need the horn.
Please do. No, it's great to be on, man, for real.
Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
As we always start.
You should tell us a little bit about yourself, Faye.
I gotta be on the spot because I'm a guest. What
Mm-hmm.
about me? Yeah, my name is Faye. I am a man, an African man from Nigeria, and I work in the entertainment business, specifically the music business. I've been friends with Francisco for a very long time. Our moms are best friends, to give you context, or at least like in a collective of best friends. I just am a person that is a very, I guess, like, to describe myself, I'm very reflective, chill, love to, spend time with friends and family, love to go on hikes, love to travel. That's a little bit about me.
Nice.
I gotta ask, since you dropped it, have you tried Francis's mom's jollof?
Bro,
Oh boy,
It's legendary. Like, out of
Bro,
all the
come on.
jollof I've had on this pod, his mom.
that's the one.
You're
Yeah.
saying
the
like
one.
everyone on here cooks jollof.
Well, there's one other.
I actually do, but yeah.
Well, there's only one other contributor, and he's not on right now. But he's not here, so I'm with those shots.
True.
Oh.
Francis's mom makes the best jollof.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
she be going crazy. That is
It's
fact.
insane.
That is
confirmed.
Yes.
I would hope so.
Mm.
Shout out, Mrs. Balogun.
Yes, sir.
And that banging ass jollof.
Love that.
All right. As we normally start, CP time. I don't know if any of you are gamers, but I definitely am. I know Selassie is one too.
Mm-hmm.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom dropped on the Switch on May 12th. All you that are listening, I hope you're gamers. If not, you better become one at the end of this episode, or else I don't know what consequence I'm going to put out there, but it's going to be a consequence for sure. Anyway, if you're playing it, hope you got some hours in. TOTK has sold more than 10 million copies in the first 3 days. All right.
That's wild.
It's
I don't
nuts.
play games, but
Bam.
I don't know if that grabbed my attention or not. But the numbers
Nah, it
seems
does.
crazy though.
That number is
Yeah.
stupid.
That seems crazy.
3
There were
days.
lines. People waited. I haven't seen a midnight release. I've done one in my lifetime, and that was for Halo 3. But there was an actual midnight release for this game, and the line was ridiculous.
Still online for Halo 3. My goodness.
No, I just went like
Yo,
it wasn't a line. You just
Halo
show
was
up and just.
Halo was that deal in
Halo.
high school. Actually, when I was playing
Yeah.
high school.
It went downhill from 2. But yo, when did games start costing $70 though? Because I saw that and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not paying $70
$70 for
If
one
you
game?
Google it
On a
back in the
Switch.
day with N64, the prices varied. Like
Yeah.
I didn't believe it, but like some games would be $35, some games would be $80. Like it was just all over the map. It wasn't until like maybe what PS2 or like Xbox 360 where games became like a standard price. And even then, when the newer generations came out, we were getting upset that it cost $10 more as we're paying for better graphics.
Bro, this is on the Switch. The Switch hasn't updated since for like 5 years, bro. There's no way I'm spending $70 on a game.
They're like the new.
Yeah.
So I
Question
got
for
the
y'all gamers
Zelda
though.
Hell no.
console Switch. The OLED on that is pretty dope, and the graphics.
A question for y'all gamers, since I don't know, y'all can we still buy used games like we used to way
you
back
still can.
when?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, GameStop is still around, I think. I mean,
GameStop.
but used games aren't used games anymore. They're just older games, and they go on sale digitally. So there are games under like 20
Oh, you
bucks.
can buy digital. Wow, I'm so out of loops. Wow.
Yeah, but once you buy digital, there's no returning. That digital is a commitment. You know what I mean? At least with a physical copy, as long as GameStop is still around, you can still try to.
Oh no, you can return a digital.
You can return a digital.
I've returned a digital.
I'm never.
There are steps with it, but like I forgot what I brought. And I was just like, no, this game is like doo-doo cakes. So it's just like, how do I return it? And there's a process to it to get your money back.
But quick pivot. Have you seen those hentai Switch games on the console? They got like hentai art. Like, never mind.
Only you. Speaking of interesting games, is there any game that anyone is excited? Francis, you don't play.
Nope.
Faye, it seems like you don't play at all.
No, I definitely don't. I'm over here quiet. Like,
I'm with you too, bro. Yeah, it's been a minute.
I know Sloshy's a heavy fighting game type person.
Absolutely.
So Street Fighter 6 is coming out. That's supposed to be an open world concept, which hasn't been done before.
June
so you
2nd,
can just run up on someone and just beat them down for no reason.
Yo, at me on Xbox, Sloshy GTN. At me on PS4, Malarkey. You will get these hands at SF6.
We'll just put it on
whenever I get the chance to play, because life is lifing out here, and we ain't 13 no more. So yeah,
I gotta do something.
It makes sense. I mean, just listening to them, it makes sense why we best friends, man. We just connect right here.
I mean, so like real talk, like
we just on the same level, man.
It's just as important as playing crossword puzzles. It keeps good hand-eye coordination. It keeps good memory. All that other good jazz.
No, I get it. I do.
Think about what you probably fill that time with, right? You have a hobby or something that you like to do, right? You know what I mean? So it's just for us, it's just gaming. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Some
people I would
love porn, to. Others gaming.
Just go buy a console, right?
Yeah.
So.
I would love to be like a gamer, honestly, or at least like explore the world for a little bit.
It's just like reading your favorite book or watching your favorite movie, except you have a lot of control over it.
Got it.
I'm a big horror movie fan, and there's a game on PC called Paranormal Tales. So that's just yeah. You ever like real simple? If you have a PC and you like horror games, download Demonologist. Play it at night with the lights off with headphones on.
Wait, what? That don't sound like
you're still able to wear the same pair of drawers 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Is that scary?
It's good. It's good. It's well worth my.
I'd rather go to the gym and play. And
that part.
I go to the gym too. So what you talking about?
That's fine.
I know. I just came from the gym. You see me in this athletic fit.
So, you know what I mean? So what you're saying, Francis, is null and void. You have two gamers on here that actively work out.
That's
wonderful. That's great for y'all.
So
I don't know how y'all do it, but
get your shit together. Prioritize your life.
It's okay. I'm just fine.
I got
great.
We're changing this episode to intervention.
Yeah, it sounds like this.
Is there a legit though an age like where you cap out on gaming? Like I thought it would have been in my 30s, but yet again, I don't have a family, so that's probably and I'm not married.
That's exactly
it's just reduced
part. But I know, but Chunky, I can't say the same because you have a family.
He has a family and he's married.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, but
it's literally I have a schedule. Like, I am going to play at this time to this time, and like I keep clock like how many hours I clock throughout the week.
Oh, that's dope.
And I just try to manage that. It's like I spend twice as much time with my family than I do gaming, and that's the balance.
Yeah. I mean, if I really want to do it, I can squeeze it in. But
now there you go. Now come along to the dark.
It's not that important, but it's gonna be a challenge.
I mean, as we move on, the next topic.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Let's get it.
Hey, so I think that ate up all our CP time. So got something you'd like us to talk about, hit us up on IG where you can send us your suggestions for next season. Let's run it. First question up, and of course our guest is going to have to answer first, so I hope you're prepared. All right. What does being a man mean to you, and are there any ideologies you follow or identify with?
What does being a man mean to me?
Hmm.
Um, that's a really good question. Naturally, I think there's layers to that question, right? And I think it's ever evolving. I think there's like a spiritual answer for me because I am a Christian. Um, and then I also think there's like a psychological and social answer to that. But um, I think I was thinking about this earlier, and I think it's like uh, a realization that like I would say it like this. So like I think it's like looking at the world as is, and understanding uh, that me as an individual am capable of everything I see in the world, and then navigating it with direction, with humility, and with like tact. Um, because I think being a man is like several responsibilities. Like spiritually as a man, like my mark personally, as I mentioned, is my faith, and that is rooted in how I move around the like in the world. And that obviously like impacts like psychological and social how I occupy space. And so I think um I don't think there's like a direct answer for me, right? I think it's several different layers, and like I mentioned, spiritually, I think it's my guide is even in just like understanding the word, meaning the Bible, and understanding really like Christ's model is like the mark for me, right? And that's spiritual. And then that informs how I navigate the world around me in terms of like interaction with people and how I occupy space. So to my, to the perspective that I mentioned of even thinking about it from the position of like seeing the world as is, right? Because, this conversation is titled Real Men. That connotation could be like subjective to different experiences around the world, right? And so I think in the context of just seeing the world as it is, right? Like the terrors, the horrible things, the good things, the bad things, all of the above, um, and internal, like essentially like synthesizing that with humility, with vision, with direction. I think that's what being a real man is to me.
Fair enough. I like it. I like it.
Any,
Yo.
Oh no, go ahead. You got something?
So you wanted me to go up. I would say for me, being a man, several facets. I'll tackle simple ones. Like I think it starts one physiological, obviously having the parts that make you a biological male. I think that helps. And I know this is a shot, but I think honestly, this from what I understand and know and believe, that's one of the first things. You need that component to be considered a man. But to be the man, that question is I think a variety of things, of characteristics, like honestly providing, protecting, building, knowing your worth, humility, taking risk, fighting for what's right, protecting justice, protecting peace. Like I think all of those things, they may not all happen at once, and for some men, and they may never happen in your lifetime. But I think it's a brevity of those things and how they essentially correspond with one another. Having these values is essentially what makes you the man, at least in my definition. So whether, use examples that are faith-based, you've used examples that are society-based, it's really a combination of those characteristics at the end of the day, apart from, the physiological piece. But yeah, that's my take on it.
I definitely agree with what Fee and Glenn said. For me, I think just to put it simply plain and not to really repeat what Glenn mentioned, of to me, a man is like an adult human male,
Mhm.
right? So, and obviously, like you guys said, there's different multiple layers to that. What makes you a man? and we'll kind of go into those details a little bit,
Mm.
but pretty much what I was thinking kind of aligns with what Glenn said, and and ultimately, like I was lucky enough to kind of grow up in a household of having a dad and a mom, so I was able to kind of see what a man looks like, even though you know of course, my dad has his shortcomings as well, but I learned a lot from him, from what a man is, or what a man should look like, or what a man should do or should not do. So, and we'll kind of go into those details a little bit, but I do agree. Definitely, I align heavily with what Faye said and what Glenn mentioned. Just not to kind of repeat everything.
Oh, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, I was born with the hardware necessary as explained, but nonetheless, if you want to call yourself a man and you're not of the same hardware, it doesn't bother me, right? So just because you're not biologically that, but you exhibit the traits that go along with it, who am I to knock that, right? I mean, religiously speaking, everyone has their not preference, but what they follow. But for me, I don't take away from someone's feelings and thoughts and how they carry themselves.
Hmm.
So I agree with being said outside of the point of like if you were once a female then became a male, or you're female and you call yourself a male or a man, I'm fine with it. Just be a good person at the end of the day. If you're saying you identify with said gender role or gender, conduct yourself that way so it can be, reflected and I can better understand it. So, in your opinion, which has the strongest influence of your definition of a man? Religion, government, culture, or your family, which also includes friends?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Sparky, Jumpy. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was gonna say for me, definitely religion. I would say it's number one for me. I mean,
Hmm.
initially I would say family, but my family's so rooted in the religion and belief that it really I think overweights or outweighs my family. And secondary, I would say the culture and my family, because the culture and the religion really drives, the like the example that has been set by my family, and that's kind of like the reason why I kind of set it up like that.
Hmm.
Um, like my dad kind of showed us it was not a very emotional guy growing up, but
Hmm.
with us we were shown tough love. But the good thing is I also saw what a hardworking man looks like, what a
Hmm.
provider looks like, even if you're not the because like I mean later on in life my mom became makes more money than my dad because of the career path that they both later on chose, but it's still I still saw that my dad was still the head of the household
Hmm.
regardless, right? So it's really just kind of, and that really ties back to the cultural side of it as well, because in our culture, so I was born in Nigeria, there's this expectation of gender roles that we are gonna talk about later as well, that does take precedent over whatever is going on, right? So it doesn't matter
Right.
who's making more money, the respect has to be there.
Right.
So growing up, I was able to see that my dad displayed that, he hones that, he carries that. He was a man of discipline, and he lived and kind of carried himself as such as well. So and yeah, so in the religion part, kind of going back to what Spade said, is a really challenging one for me because yes, I'm not gonna judge someone if they want if they change their identity and identify as being a man. It's not my place to like condemn the individual. But me personally, it's always something that you know, I definitely don't know if I agree with it, but it's not something that I would like discredit someone or hate someone for. I feel like everyone has their own choice. We all are free agent, moral agents in life, and we can make our own decision that best fit our life and the decision we want to make. So yeah, I would just kind of leave it at that.
So I got a quick follow-up question, and it's
Hmm.
really short. You said that you know what a hardworking man looks like because of your father.
Right.
Now, is hardworking a specific male trait, or can you still learn about hard work through your mother?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, our working doesn't really sit in one gender or what. Yeah, but I
Right.
just, it's just one of those societal norms that's normally identified with men, with males, I should say. So obviously, yes. Since short answer, it doesn't have to sit with the men. It does
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah, it
And
kind of goes
let's
across
Yeah.
the board. Yeah,
and
for
let's
sure.
be real. Like I would say, even growing up, come from an immigrant family as well. Mom worked even harder than dad in most cases because mom probably had a job and mom was taking care of the kids. Mom was cooking the food. Mom
Yep.
was cleaning the clothes. So it was just like,
Yeah.
you look at it culturally, sometimes there are gender roles, and coming from a Jamaican family, there was heavy gender roles. A man did
Hmm.
this, a woman did that.
Right.
And I think if you even go back in Jamaica today, you'll see that there's tons of women out there having jobs, taking care of their kids in single families, going back, cooking, making the meals, cleaning. So there's a lot more to it. So yeah, hard work is not, attributed to any gender.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that necessarily defines or that doesn't necessarily make a woman a man either if she works hard. It's just
Right.
adulting. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I would say, obviously, within our time and our generation, like I think one of the things that's missing here is also kind of like entertainment and media and the influence that had on what made
Hmm.
you a man also, because
Right.
I remember my time growing up on television. I had guys like Charles Bronson, you had guys like Bruce Willis, like just these hard-edged men, these stoic
Mm.
men that didn't take any bullshit, that stood up for their communities. And then you had your family, and then like also that impact and that cultural influence that you might have. And then if you ever come from a faith-based home, that also had an influence if there was religion involved, and also where the men stood as the leader, the organizer of the churches, the deliverer of the word, and
Right.
everyone kind of followed the man, but no one was ever subjugated to that. It was
Yeah.
just the man led, and he led his people, he led his family. And
Right.
apart from that, being an American citizen, there is a love for your country and for your nation, the willingness to take arms if needed, if you ever called. So yeah, that was something that was solely attributed to men for the most part before women were involved in the service. So it was like all these things over time and how it changed over time. Yes, generational changes and influences have an impact on that imagery as well, which makes it hard for some people to now look at what's happening today and accept it or understand how to tolerate it, because they grew up in a different time. And I think that's not to be discounted or discredited. At the end of the day, we're all here to coexist and
Right.
respect and tolerate one another. But
Right.
for me, it's like really a combination of all those things. At the same time, I learned what a good man did. I also learned what a not so good man did, and with those examples and
Mm.
having those influences near me, being lucky enough to have a dual parent home and witness the harmony between those two, but also having other influences from school, other influences from organizations that I was a part of.
Right.
If you took martial arts or the recreational, there's just always these men around to kind of instill and drop pieces of wisdoms and tokens and jewels upon you if you were
Right.
that lucky.
Right.
Some people may have had those that weren't so good, and they may be involved in gangs or other things. And there was always a need, I think, as particularly as a male, to find other men to connect with,
Right.
because the adage says iron sharpens iron, and there's always, I feel like, a need to be able to connect with other men and really recognize that influence, and not just from a visual perspective, but also from a mental. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I do completely agree with that. I say it's actually hard for me to like really rank what has the most impact. I would definitely say obviously it starts at home, because that's whether it's spiritual or cultural and all of those things. I think family is definitely a big definer, at least like early on. And then when you go into like middle school and like high school, and you start forming the relationships and like you know getting like having crushes on girls and all those things, and like having to navigate those things, then there's like some people that emerge. Somebody be mentors, somebody be terrible you know what I mean, like terrible voices in your ear, or things, or let's not even say terrible, they're just whatever those voices are. And those are also I mean, those social like pressures or norms are like influencing some of your choices. But I definitely agree with what you guys are both saying. But I think it's I think it's just interesting that to it doesn't really matter where you come from. There's things that are really affecting and shaping your choices and your actual like fabric, right? And how do you develop character and what does that look like? And those are like attributes on both sides, or all across genders. And so like to your point, Chunky, as far as like being a decent human being and things like that, it's like those are rooted in something, and that's where those things are coming from, a different place, or wherever those things are being sourced, or wherever they're coming from, or whether it's you piecemealing it together, or being mentored, or having a multi-family home. There's like disciplines and character things that still emerge to show people's characters at the end of the day. So I think, of course, that is across genders.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, all that makes sense. To Slashy's point, when it came down to the military, there's also Queen Hatshepsut of Egypt. That was the Egyptian pharaoh that was a strong military leader. So there are really strong components across the board. When I look at the things that happen in American society, it was a male-dominated society, right? But it doesn't mean women can't be leaders. They just weren't given the opportunity. Not to take away from anything that you're saying, but I also like to offer equality in the sense that even in Egypt, you had female leaders, right? And they were pretty good at what they did, and they made history, not knowing they're making history, just being the outright people that they are. So I'm a equal
And I think
opportunist.
yeah, and I think to just jump in really quick, and
Mhm.
I think that's what emphasizes, or at least underscores, my point about like seeing the reality of the world and being able to understand history and seeing like how things have happened. You know what I mean? Because you're molded by everything, and so to be able to like see that and synthesize it and look and make choices and have a direction, I think that's what it means to be a man. As a man, right? As that role in this, like in the world that we're in, it's like you should be able to like make those decisions and make those choices and go in a direction based on humility and synthesizing the world and seeing how it is. Being able to internalize that for yourself and come out with something of character, I think that's really incredible.
It is. It is.
And just to kind of add to, I think naturally though, I think God, I mean, I don't mean to kind of add religion in here, but I think
You're spiritual. Go off.
it's such a real important part of it. I think God naturally made men to be leaders of their home, of their surrounding, of their community, because we have so much power to influence. I mean, don't ask me the source of this, but I remember my pastor actually mentioned in church one time. He said, "There's such a power in a man that come to church. Let's say like a family, the man comes to church and prays. The likeliness of the family following him, his leadership, to come to church as well and follow the will of God is very high compared to if the woman is the one coming to church and praying for the family to follow the Lord. So
Right.
like I said, don't ask me the source of that, but this is one of the saying of my pastor that he referenced some of the power that naturally is given to man, right?
Is it
So I'm not
is
saying
it power?
women cannot be leaders,
Hmm.
but there are some natural instinct and gift that God is given
For
to
sure.
each individual group
Absolutely.
that is more natural to us. It doesn't mean somebody else cannot learn it or be it, right? But we do have to acknowledge there are some things naturally that are given to each individual side of the aisle that we do have
Hmm.
to acknowledge, right? So
Mhm.
I wanted to kind of state that.
So my question is to that: is it power or the value that we place on men versus women? Right.
Mm.
So what I hear on a objective side is discipline, right? Men have a certain level of discipline. Like we'll talk about traits in a minute. Um, we just go through it, shit, right? Like I'm gonna take this hill, I'm gonna fucking do it. Women would think of so many different ways to balance that. We're just like, no, the way through it is forward. We talked this out, we figured it out. This is the way. I think there is kind of a off balance when it comes down to value because you look at Adam and Eve, right? Eve was created for what reason? To balance Adam, right? And I heard an acronym of like, oh yeah, Eve was taken from Adam's rib, and the person explained this to me said, you know, the RIB stands for rest and brokenness. Like as men, we do so much so hard for so long that we need a woman to remind us that it's okay to rest. It's okay to vent about our issues. It's okay to pretty much slow down, to recover, to do things a lot better and a lot harder. So that's, don't disagree with what you're saying, Fran. Just throwing that tidbit in there as a topic of like, here's the other side that I see. And does that make any difference in how we view men and view women and our values that we place on them in certain aspects?
Now, I would say it doesn't make women any less valuable. It's just further distinguishes or sets the fact that men played a particular role when it came to faith and leadership, and men being responsible for upholding a certain position. It's all a balancing act, and it doesn't make anyone less. Like, for instance, I can't bear children. That doesn't make me any less of an individual. You know what I mean? So there's these clear distinctions between, and even if you read Exodus, I believe there were several times during the year where all the men would actually go out and pray and carry on certain services where it was just men. So it was just like, obviously men were put in a position to lead. There is a certain power to men. Not doesn't makes anyone powerless, but there is a certain power to men, in particular when it comes to faith-based and leadership that we were meant to uphold and pretty much pass on to our families. So that's all that really means.
If you got, and the difference of someone being less valuable than the next, that's not what I meant. It's just the level of value and stock that we put into the genders, right? Just because, I guess, let's say you buy a Lexus and a comparable BMW to that Lexus doesn't make one less valuable number. They're of equal value, but more, we put more value on one than the other. Like, hey, this looks a lot better to me, so I'm gonna gravitate to that more. Everyone has their perspective value. No one's valueless than the next person, but it's just like, where do we put most of our stock in, as in following and understanding.
Well, I mean, if I'm on the East Coast and I buy that forward-wheel drive Lex as opposed to that all-wheel drive, I'm in some deep shit, right?
Real talk.
But it's just like, I mean, yeah, I get it, but that it just kind of denotes that, yeah, men were put for a particular role just as women were, and it's just a fact. Like, it doesn't make anyone less or anyone more. It's just we had certain avenues to fill, and I feel like men today have kind of departed from that. That's why you don't see a lot of men in church.
And just one last comment though. I think also what makes a real man, since we're talking about real men, is how to actually utilize that power. Right. You know, a good stewardship of that power that's given to you and managing it in the proper way. Because I think there's value in that, because there are men who misuse the power and there are men that use it for good. So I think we also have to kind of, you know, yes, I know. Chunky, I had a
comment that was just like, this will set the tone with this question backslash comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you were a superhero or you had superpowers, would you use it for good, for what you want, or just straight up evil? Like, you are the most powerful being on the planet Earth at the moment.
Yeah, like with great power comes with great responsibility.
I think
where are we going with this?
No, I think like whatever power you have and how you use it is like, it's just a reflection of your character and who you are, right? At your core. So like, if you were to ask me that question, like the natural answer, of course, the desire would be to do good, right? In reality, what does that look like though, right? Because but and I say that even with the context of like, you know, that's one of the reasons we are men, like human, not God, or not a divine being that's bigger than us, because at some point my good is going to be evil for somebody else. You know what I mean? It just depends on where you are across the world. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I could do as much quote unquote good as I want, but then at some point I'm probably going to get tired and be like, yo, you know what? Screw all these ungrateful ass people. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's like a balancing act, honestly, in terms of, you know, if we're even talking about like power and receiving power, that's why it's not easy to go get power, right? Like, and in some contexts, right? Like in certain things. But I think it's just a reflection. It's just like when somebody gets money for the first time and whatever they do with it is what they know. You know what I mean? It's really what's been poured in at the beginning, at the outset. So I think that is like you know, it's just really a reflection of what your actual character is and what your discipline is.
Yeah. So what would you do?
I would do good, but I would take care of myself. What you mean? I got power. I
Hey,
what?
just-
Like what?
it was a very articulate answer. It made sense. But I just want to know, you can go out there
Yeah.
and start punching
No, I
heads
was-
off of people, or just
Nah,
going out there and just saving, cats from trees and
nah,
like.
bro. Like,
Chunky,
but-
what you
stuff.
gonna do, Chunky?
Yeah,
Since
yeah,
you asked
you
the
already know
question,
I'm
what
gonna
you
do.
gonna do?
what
What
am
you
I
gonna
gonna
do?
I'm gonna use it for my self-benefit, right? I'm gonna do some good, and then I'm gonna do some bad, which balances out, right? Yin and yang. So we straight. So if I need to like kick someone so hard they fly to Mars, I'm gonna do it.
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. You probably killed him, bro.
I mean, one thing about Chunky, he's gonna punch somebody. That's for sure.
That's crazy.
I mean, look at him.
Hey, I mean, like it's all about utilizing power, right? So in
Yeah,
essence, like I have size to my advantage. How do I utilize it, right? I can utilize it to intimidate, or I can utilize to encourage. I can utilize it to lead, right? So I can lead through intimidation and then fix that later. Like, hey, you're going to comply with what I say because I said it, or else you're going to feel some type of hurt. Okay,
Yeah.
you're complying. Here's the lesson to be learned. No one can take away from who you are and your mentality. I can physically harm you, but what you've
Right.
been through and what you know, you will forever have
Right.
and own,
right,
right? So there's a lesson learned to be, there's a lesson learned in anything that you do, right?
right.
So the
right.
day I meet someone bigger than me, it's just like, yo, this may hurt, but I'm still going to fight it out. Or, hey, my most powerful weapon is my mind. And that's what I learned through time and
Right.
patience and dealing with other men, right? And other women, or
Mhm.
whoever in between. Sometimes I may have dealt with people where I assumed they were one thing and they weren't, right? And it's not
Mhm.
through being mean, but it's just pure ignorance. So I give, like I said, I'm an equal opportunist. These hands are rated E for everyone.
I love that.
Chunky, I got a question for you. Like, since we kind of talking about size, because in society, we do bestow power to men who look physically strong, and like the term protector is usually thrown to it's really usually counts to men, right? Usually,
Right.
right,
Right.
and especially if you physically also look like it, there's a
Right.
societal benefit that also comes with that as well. So like, how you think um that is managed through like the social construct that we have versus your non physically appearing regular man in the society? How you think, you know, we balance that in the society today, from what is expected from a man, what they're supposed to look like, versus when you don't actually look like what a standard man should look like? And how do you kind of balance that in that society?
To me?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, yeah, like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
it could be
cool.
to anyone really,
I
but
mean, I'll answer really quick. Size doesn't matter.
That's fire. I love that.
You got it right. What
Yeah.
really matters is like how you carry yourself, right? So we
Yeah.
look at this ideology, like what you're saying, Fran, societally, we think a man's supposed to be like Captain America or like G.I. Joe. If you ever notice in toys, G.I. Joe went from this scrawny little man to this buff ass Arnold Schwarzenegger. But at the end of the day, we're talking about like traits, right? So
Right.
you can be the biggest dude, but have the softest voice in a room. You can have no control over your emotions. You have no ability to lead. So does that make you a real man, or does that make you a boy in a man's body? You can have someone that's bald-headed, 5'2", pot belly, but they can command the room like there's no tomorrow. So you have your military leaders that are like that, right? You look at some military leaders like, how in the fuck did you get to the position? And they open their mouth, you're just like, I got it. I'm going to listen and I'm going to follow. Now,
Right.
certain body styles contribute to certain attributes. If I'm like down behind enemy lines, I don't want someone that's overweight, bald-headed, trying to
Right.
come and get me. Now, they can probably run a mile and a half and I not know it, but at the end of the day, it's like, you got to carry me off the X, right? So it's just like, I want someone there. So like every man, shape, size, and ideology fits a certain culture and demographic. You put all those men in the room, then you have decisions to be made, which goes back to pretty much when it comes down to politics, comes down to military, and comes down to society. Put 3 men like that in a room, I guarantee you they all look different.
All right, so let someone that's not 6 foot answer that question. For the men that are not
He
6
said,
feet.
yeah, size matters.
No,
Yeah, because
yeah, size does play a role. I mean, you even look at like, well, at least for American standards, like most CEOs, I guarantee you're about 6 feet and higher. You know what I mean? And apart from them, their
Interesting.
names being Bill,
Never thought
Harry,
about
and
that.
I
Ted.
need that data point, bro.
I've never
don't
thought
know.
about
Bro,
that. That's an interesting
that's
stat.
crazy.
That's an
Look it
interesting
up.
statement.
Look it up. Most CEOs guarantee you're about 6 feet or more. But I would say yes. Like I think a part of being a man in particular is also knowing that you have these certain abilities over other men and not using that for that purpose, right? Because some men will know I'm bigger than him. They size him up, right? We've all been to that situation where you kind of, well, all right, confrontation's in front of me. I'm gonna size this dude up and I'm gonna determine whether or not I should get involved or I should stand back or probably try to find my way to finesse the situation. And most guys, I feel like, especially the 6 foot taller guys, they look at someone, they're like, all right, he's about 5 foot. I could start some shit. I could pop some shit, even if it's unreasonable, because they know they'll shake your head. You know that's real.
Listen, in my head, everyone's an MMA fighter.
Okay.
That's
Well,
correct.
today, yeah, you never know. But at least, growing up, I would say, yeah, most cases, a guy, even now, the guy will size you up and be like, the chances of you taking a fight for a guy that's shorter than you is a lot higher than a guy that's bigger or taller than you. That's a fact.
Agreed.
So it's just like, I think part of being a man is also knowing that, yeah, I have these God-given abilities, but I'm not going to use it to subjugate or cause harm to other people. And that's what really separates a man, as Chunky noted, especially separating your emotions and separating your advantage. Because you took like stories of men like, for instance, Odysseus. He had to use his cunning and his wit to get through all of his trials and get back home. So particularly for men that are not 6 feet, yeah, we have to use our charisma, our cunning, our wit. We have to kind of develop our skill set a little bit more, I believe, because initially you're probably, if you put a 5 foot guy next to a 6 foot guy, and you let people pick, like, all right, who do you want to protect you? Guarantee you most people are going to pick the 6 foot guy just because he looks bigger and stronger. And there is something with stature. There is. So it's just like kind of like knowing that and also just looking to improve yourself. And particularly why I always stress me being a man of my word, because I feel like that's the most important thing at the end of the day. It's just the characteristics and traits that you possess, because let's be real, like I'm glad I'm not 6 feet, not calling shots at 6 foot people, but I'm glad I don't always have to get my clothes customized to get a good outfit. You know what I mean? So
it just looks better at the end of the day. It's tailored. Like, oh damn! Like not only are you tall, you're fit,
also very
and this shit
expensive.
looks nice.
Yeah.
So
like,
all my 5'11" people,
Yeah.
bless
I
up.
mean, I
would've-
can't get my clothes off the rack at Kmart, so like I'm not even mad at it.
Ben
So-
can't talk either because he's over 6 foot. So
I know.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. But I wish I was just gonna say. First, I thought, Glenn, you were gonna say like, yeah, I thought you were gonna say as a man you got to know how to fight. I thought he was gonna say that at first. I was like, oh shit.
It is a good trait to have.
Yeah,
to defend, to protect yourself. Absolutely.
Definitely. But I also like, obviously, like, it's the four of us having this conversation, but I always think anytime I sit at these types of conversations, I like the first thing I always think of is women. Like I always want a woman's perspective to hear like what they have to say about, you know what I mean? Because they're the ones experiencing us outside of ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And so to be able to see and listen and hear, that's also, again, that's what it takes to be, that's what I think is like being a real man is, you know what I mean? That's a part of that character as well, is that, again, that humility and the not just willingness to listen because that, of the assumption that somebody is lesser, right? It's just more so like it's perspective. We have blind spots. And to be able to see what a woman sees or hear what a woman hears when we say what we say, I think is extremely important as well. You know what I mean?
But would that low key be simping? Since that's a big word.
Oh, boy.
Let's get it. I love that. I saw that question and I was just like, y'all.
we will.
Yo, I didn't want to say thanks for you guys doing a really good job explaining that, because I feel like I did a terrible job asking the question, but that was excellent way of
No,
kind
you
of
did it. You explained it well.
the what I was trying to ask. So
You did well. I like the question.
Now
It
we
will
knew what
not
you
be
were
edited
asking.
out.
We knew what you were asking at the end of the day. We knew.
Yeah. All right. So
We're there.
we'll go on to simping.
There.
Yeah.
What does simping mean to you? And have you ever done it for some yams?
Everyone's done it. Everyone's done it. Everyone's begged for box. Everyone's begged for box. Everyone has done it. Everyone has.
Yeah,
Now, if
like
you
saying
Kevin, Kevin,
So,
Great.
Kevin
like, is
Samuel,
it begging? So it's just like, are you understand? Like, are you
begged for box, bro.
Everyone's
That's a
are
begged
you
for
understanding?
crazy-
Like, hey, like,
now if you're Andrew Tate,
He
Jeez.
wasn't always Andrew Tate though. Let's be real.
I'm
He's begged for
not
box.
even on budget. I think
He's
I
begged
think
for
as a
box.
man, it's different ways to solicit for box, right?
And begging is one of
Yo,
So-
that's crazy.
So hear me out.
okay,
Glenn
Use
is
different
adamant
language.
about that.
Hear me out.
It's the
You
same
know that,
thing, bro.
that bottom lip come up. Please, let me get some pussy, please.
Oh,
Is
my God.
it even worth it at that point?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
If I have to beg for you
Never
to
in my
do something,
life.
right?
Let me get some pussy, please. Get some pussy.
Like
That's crazy.
I've acted in ways to, how can I say, like to earn it, right? In their perspective. Like
Mm.
there's every woman is different. So, you know, me being
Mm.
hard chunky, like, yeah, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna, like, you know, yoke the dude up and do stuff. Some women are just like, no, like, you have no level of intelligence. So I'm just like, oh, hey, let me like pull out my smoke pipe with like no like tobacco in it, pull out my monocle and top hat, and like intellectually explain something, or just sit there and just listen, like, oh, what? Oh, no way, cool, all right, yeah. So I don't think it's simping. I think is understanding someone else's personality and leveraging that to your advantage to solicit free amps.
Isn't that still simping though? Like,
How does-
here's
No,
my
like,
thing.
First
your,
off-
your version of simping is
Yeah,
begging.
Nah,
I was
but I'm
just-
just
okay.
saying. All right, go ahead, Faye, go ahead.
Can
Faye.
you do us a solid and define simping in your perspective?
Oh, me?
Yes.
All right, so simping in my perspective is doing things you normally would not do to get with someone. So that usually means lowering your standards, lowering your boundaries, lowering your thresholds, like dealing with shit you would not normally deal with just to get with somebody or just to win someone's affection. And at the end of the day, my thing is like, you can do all this. And I think that's something that we come from the Jodeci generation, right? Like we come from the generation of men that did the whining and dining. Like if you're 30 plus, you were in that wine and dine, cry for you, all going above and beyond. First date, you spending $700 if you know, you know. You know what I mean? So
that guy got.
If you know, you know.
yeah, you
This is
talking
still behind
got-
us.
Goodness. Glenn
So-
got.
Is that being romantic though?
Nah, I mean, you could be romantic, but
So-
that's also subjective, I feel like. But I think simping, or to answer the question though, before we deviate, is just doing things you normally would not do, usually lessening your own standards to win someone's affection. That's simping.
Because
That-
you listen
so-
to somebody?
So that's an interesting thing because when you talked about even hearing a woman's perspective and you're like, oh, is that simping? I that one of the reasons I want clarity on your perspective on simping is like, obviously simping is like it's a term that's Twitter essentially
Loose.
developed, right?
Loose, yeah.
But I think that to answer your question more directly, as far as like, have you ever simped for some yams?
No,
If
begged.
it's
Begged.
I've never begged. I've never begged a day in my life.
It seems like
That's
only
crazy.
one
Come on,
person
you
on
can't
here
use
has
it
beg with
begged with their
something.
lip out
That's crazy.
for some yams.
Clearly, Glenn.
Like Friday, Saturday.
That is
Sunday.
the graphic we're putting on the
Valentine's
video
Day.
when we release a 15-minute clip. Is
Memorial
Glenn's
Day.
lip
It's
out.
Labor Day.
That's
Let me get some more Labor Day,
crazy.
please.
That's wild, first and foremost. But yeah, so like I think if I was gonna say like simping, so like what does simping mean to me? Like it honestly means absolutely nothing to me. I don't give it any attention personally. I care about personally who I'm relating to feels and how we're communicating. That's all that matters to me, right? That's just me personally. Doing something out of character to get the cookie, that to me falls into a category of just like youth. Like that's not an adult type of direction, right? Like to me personally, like once you grow up to be an adult, right, and you're connecting with women, I think it's about communication and understanding. Everything before that, that's like very childish to me, right? And even as a kid, like to be honest, like actually to be even more frank, like I wasn't quote unquote allowed to date until technically I was out of college, technically, right? And that's because you grew up in a strict household.
I mean, your parents didn't know about it until you got out of college.
They had no idea,
That
right?
part.
They had no
I
idea,
knew.
right? But like, but so like to the perspective of simping, like I think it's like performative behavior that is somewhat manipulative to a woman to get the woman to do what you want, right? That's I think that's extremely problematic and very childish, right?
Mm.
And to personally speaking, and to be really honest, like I've never done that. I don't have a reason to, because personally, like I've found myself like being like so enamored with a woman that like I'll like try to do certain things, but I'm so uncomfortable within myself that I'm just like can't even get myself to do it. You know what I mean? And so I think like I said, I personally just like, again, this is just like the early times of dating is a lot of trial and error. You're just like kind of trying to figure things out, and all of a sudden like you just, oh shit, I landed on some shit. You know what I mean? And you get a woman here and this happens and that thing. But then as you grow into yourself, like personally, and I think I'm more so speaking for where I'm at, it's just like, bro, like I think it's about what you want and how you want to connect with people. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you're already sending yourself backwards.
Mm.
But like, if it's far as like simping, if anybody wants to do that just to get some booty, like go crazy. You're
So
just like that shit just does not really affect
I'm gonna try
me
to sum
personally.
this up and tell me if I'm right.
Yeah.
So what you did basically is like mom and dad, stay in the corner. Yo, girl, bring your fine ass over here. You give me them yams or what? No, get the fuck out.
That's the summary. Bet. Okay.
That's what we will call red pill today.
Oh, shit.
That's Chad right there.
That's
That's
not
Yeah.
Chad.
I'm gonna go on record and
That's
say
hella
no,
Chad.
sir.
Okay,
No,
so
I
I was
mean,
wrong. Got
I
it.
think what Ben is trying to say is you have to set a boundary for yourself as an adult, right? Especially if you're like an adult in the marketplace. You have to set a boundary like this is how far I will go. And then when you start crossing that threshold that you set for yourself, and I think that's when you have to really question, okay, is this worth it? Now, am I going too far? Am I doing something outside of character that I mean, in today's modern day dating, maybe considered simping, right? So, but I mean, this is all new terminology that's new to
Yeah.
us. I mean,
I
when I was
Just
single and
whooped.
out
It was pussy
dating,
whips.
I was
I
like,
think it's different.
Like
you just,
whooped.
I mean, to be honest, like, do I have girls that was texting, trying to go on a date with me? Yes, I was like texting, sending good morning texts, sending shirtless pictures on Snapchat, like,
What?
like
Let's
he's like,
go.
like,
Yo, you
yo,
like my
like,
chest? Yo, you like my chest?
I mean,
Or instant
the
messenger
boy back in the
pics.
day was, I had a little, little some
No, no
with
one's doubting that.
little
You had the whoop
some.
whoop whoop.
But you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But but at the same token, you also have girls who are the one chasing you at the same token. So it's like it's a balancing act, right?
Hey,
So but back then we were just trying to do what we think was ideal because everybody else around us was doing the same thing. There were some guys who just naturally get more girls, and there's some guys who got to work twice as hard to get girls, and there's some
those
guys
under
that
6
falls
feet.
in the middle. But at the end of the day, we were just trying to get something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I would say
We were
this
just
as
trying to get
well.
it.
Like, not for it to be confused. Like, I think we've all been there. Like, I think it's in a man's natural ability to want to pamper and give and be chivalrous. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah.
today, it's like if a guy is nice to a woman, if he opens the door for her, suddenly he's simping, and that is
Well,
not the
that
case.
and
You know what
and
I
I
mean?
agree. I completely agree with
Yeah.
that. And that's the reason why I wanted you to clearly define what your perspective is. Because
Absolutely.
that's why I even answered when you're talking about like what does simping mean to you? Is just like it means absolutely nothing because my mind does not go there in
Mhm.
terms of like because I think okay, like I guess my perspective is like anybody that looks at a man pursuing a woman and starts like starts laughing, that's a child. That's
Because
not
he's
a
not getting
man.
none. He don't know how to do
Absolutely.
it. He ain't got no
That's a
game.
like, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Chucky
yeah, like,
says,
Oh,
ain't
you
got
mad,
no
bro?
game.
Like, look, he out there holding doors and shit. He's
right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like,
You
bro, like,
simping.
it's like go crazy.
like, oh shit, he bought
Feel
flowers.
free.
He a simp.
I
Yeah.
clap for you on the sideline. Like what? Like
Absolutely.
okay, good for
Pamper
you.
that
but
queen,
like, but I
man.
think there's
Pamper
so
that
many
queen.
different
You
layers.
just
to
bring her
dating
around
nowadays,
and
There
bro.
is.
have her look at him.
Pamper
Like,
that queen.
baby, this is what I'm not. I'll never
Stare.
be that.
Yeah, that's
Let's go.
weird.
And
too,
to me,
so
I feel
wouldn't
like
do
that's
that
how we
either.
know we found that one, because there's no length you would not go to make this person happy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I mean,
For
of
sure.
course, not to the point where you're sacrificing and, pretty
Yeah,
much
or being
degrading yourself.
abused, right? Like or being
Yeah.
used, like
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, we want to feel that. We want to do that. We should be doing that. We should be
Yeah.
pampering. We should be chivalrous. We should be, babe, you look great today. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
all that. That is not simping. They got it wrong there.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, since
Yeah.
we're talking about it, is now, I mean, this has been a long age conversation about paying for on dates. Should men, talk
Okay,
about
let's
real
have this
men, let's go
conversation.
there.
Let's
I'm
go
gonna tell you
there.
what I've heard
Should
from.
men pick up the bills? Are
Mhm.
you considered a real man when you don't? Like, should you always pick it up if you're not? If you do, are you a simp?
I have
Alright,
a
so I'm
direct answer to
Alright,
that,
yeah, go
but
ahead.
I'm gonna let you go ahead, Glenn.
Nah, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so the direct answer to that is if I, as a man, ask you out, I'm paying for the date. I'm asking you out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if a woman asks me out, that's a nuanced situation, because to be honest, I would probably still pay for it. It's nuanced because it's like a woman asked me, right? Like she's like, "Oh, we should go to dinner," right? I'm probably going to end up paying for the date, right? That's just like in my mind. It's like if it's a date, if it's a specific date, first date, I'm paying for it. But like I think having that conversation with that person is also important. But I like, as far as like a rule or some sort of general approach to that, I don't know. I think that's where it gets dangerous and just like really freaking weird.
Yeah.
But
Ain't
me
weird on that
personally, if I'm asking a woman out, I'm paying for it. That's just
No,
I'm asking for your time.
I
You know
hear
what
your
mean?
perspective, and you hit something that's very key. Like if a woman asks you out, she'll have the same ideology as you. Like if I ask you, I want to pay for you, right? Are
Right.
you? Doesn't matter your level of comfortability, right? So what?
Maybe not, but
in-
maybe so. Yeah.
in
I
essence,
mean, some
doing.
women will disagree with that. It was like, it doesn't matter if I
Yeah.
ask you or not. You
So-
should be picking up the bill.
I mean, every woman's different, right? So what I'm
Mhm.
saying is that if a woman's about her business, if she's mature, she comes up to you
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yo, Fran, you sexy and flexy under
Yeah.
6 foot. I want to take you out
Wow.
to
Are
dinner."
you gonna do me like that, bro?
So she listen.
Francis ain't never had trouble. I'll
So-
tell you that right
So
now.
she comes.
See, I be telling these boys, man.
She comes.
They don't know.
I didn't say you had trouble. I'm just gonna pick you because you under 6 foot. So like,
Damn.
she comes. She picks you up. She's like, "Hey, yo, I'm gonna be there at 8. We gonna go to this place. After this place, we're gonna go to this after place, right?" So she lays out the whole agenda, and she's like, "Hey, just get in." The check comes, right? She doesn't even let you see it. She pulls out her card, pays for it. Would that make you feel some type of way?
The freaking natural first thought is like, I promise you, there's so many men that would feel like a bitch.
Why?
Mm.
You have so,
It's just the first thought. It's like, oh man, I'm being like,
but you have someone
yeah,
that literally, without saying it, shows you, I'm with you for you, not your money, and I'm only to take care of you.
right.
So they're actually going after your character. How are you going to respond to that? Laid
Alright,
out
let me
the
jump
whole
in on
night
this
for
one.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
jump
go
in,
ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Jump in.
Go ahead.
All you got to do is show up.
So for me, I probably wouldn't accept that until we're actually together. Like, because I'm not sure if it's cultural for me, but I do agree. Like, I feel like the man should pay for the dates, but also that doesn't mean you got to go to Ruth Chris every night. You know what I mean? That could be, I feel like those first initial engagements until you guys are like official should be small, interactive things.
Yeah,
Go to the coffee shop, because once
Smart.
again, it's not going to matter. And I've heard this from other single women. You know what I mean? Like, don't spend all your money on that date. You know what I mean? You're still trying to learn this person, trying to get to know who they are. And right now today, a lot of people, if a single man talking, y'all married, so y'all okay. I think Faye, you were in the single man
I'm single.
category.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
single man with real experience talking here. It's like, people have baggage, bro. Like, and
Nah,
it's
I was,
kind of
I was
like,
gonna say something slick. That's why you're still single. Anyway,
it is what it is. It could be I'm smart. It could be I'm smart too.
He
But
went there.
it's just like people have baggage today, and I feel like essentially it's kind of like unpacking and getting to know who they are. So don't blow your load on those dates and have these kind of faulty high expectations, because
that's a crazy ass way to describe that phrase. That's crazy.
Exactly.
And that's two. That's
So-
two for this episode, right? Size
So-
doesn't matter, and don't blow your load.
Don't blow your load.
Highlighting those.
I
Be
mean,
tactical, man. Like really take the time to get to know that person before you start really, spending, busting out bottles and all that other stuff. And
but here's the thing, to cut you off and
Yeah.
apologize. Here's
all
the
good.
thing. It's like what has taught, let's say, kids who are just starting to date, that you can do $5 dates to coffee or $10, or you know what I mean? Like it's usually like everything you see is like you're supposed to be all good. You're supposed to be like this well put together man that is like supposed, and honestly, that might be pressure we put on ourselves. Like personally,
Absolutely.
I've definitely, like modeled that, throughout my dating life. But to be honest, it's like, like as kids, you're just like trying to impress, right? And especially when you like somebody, that you're shooting that, you're like, man, I want this person to fuck with me. And then you go crazy, and then you're like, wait, I just went too crazy. And that's the thing. It's like, I think it's like that layer of first our own internalization of like what we think is something to discuss even further. And then also like to also unpack women's expectations and women's like ideas about what actually like counts towards like a valuable first date or dating experience. Because dating should be an experience. It's not really about the money you spend. And obviously you learn that later a lot of times. You don't, right away you like, again, Glenn, you spent $700 on a first date. That's crazy.
Well, for real, can we talk about how that happened? I mean, if you know, we have to go back to the episode.
Can we dive into that?
But just like one tidbit to add to that though is like, get to know the person. Don't blow your load, and essentially like no peacocking. Like just keep it simple, because at the end of the day, you're not trying to impress every woman. You want that one woman, the one that's for you at the end of the day. So it's kind of like that. And also, here's another thing though. There are cases where, women will ask, I'll give the tip, or I'll go 50%. And honestly, I'll go half with you, even if it's for like a little coffee or whatever. They want to pay their own part. To me, if they offer it, I'll take a mental note. I won't accept it, but I will take a mental note and be like, you know what? Yeah. She actually offered to pay the tip or pay half. Bet there will definitely be more dates coming. You know what I mean?
I gotta pivot.
What about if she doesn't?
And like my thing is like with that, it's
that's
just
not
like,
a problem either.
She's like, hey, like if she has equal value, then you pay 50%, right? So like I said,
how do we determine value though?
It's saying things. It's subjective. So it's saying
how am I determine value when I just met you? I can't determine your value.
You can determine value in somebody. You never fuck with someone. You never fucked with someone, and you're just like, they're not worth my time. You try to engage in conversation. You try to take them somewhere. And it wasn't a pleasurable experience based off the responses you were getting, based off how they're acting. It's just like, to me, you have value with someone else, but your value with me does not align. That say you're a valueless person, but I can't put stock in you because I'm not going to get the return that I'm expecting. So you did technically put value on them, not saying they're valueless. Value is subjective. So it's just like, this is not what I'm doing. Once again, if a woman says like, hey, I want to pay 50%, go ahead, pay 50%, right? I take in what you're doing. It's not going to hurt you. That's cool, whatever. What does it really affect at the end of the day? I don't always have to assert control over the situation.
Right.
I look at you to be a counterpart. So I'm going to start allowing you to do in the beginning to do counterpart things. And to me, that's the misconception. My thing always on dates is just like, I'm going to be the motherfucker I'm going to be because you're going to deal with the quote unquote real me later. Fuck that. I'm not going to waste my time. I can't get back that. I can't get that back in life. Yeah. So the peacocking and like whatever, I'm going to fuck shit up. You're going to get that first date. And if you can manage that first date, then I know you're someone I can go on another date with. I can deal with. But to be a fake me to begin with, I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting your time. And there's no value in that situation.
It's exhausting.
So this is why I'm married.
Yeah. So to kind of put it all together, it sounds like, paying or not paying or whatnot during the first day doesn't really truly define what a real man is. It's really subjective, and it's individual based, right? And
Mhm.
it's really, and also kind of like says a lot to what your intentions are,
Right.
maybe for that date too. If you are trying to peacock and maybe catch the interest of maybe more, casual interactions, I guess, right, with a woman, right, then maybe the way you move about that whole space is a little bit different. But if your goal is to find a real partner, then it doesn't truly define you as a real man or not, or you
Yeah.
simping or whatnot. So just kind of want to, at least that's kind of what I'm getting
Well,
from
if
all
you
the
go
comments
on
as
there and
well.
you expecting her to pay for that meal, if you asked her out, you're probably not going to get another date. I'll say
So
that.
it's so like it's not an expectation. If like
Yeah,
if
I'm
she
saying
says
if
it,
they're paying like half, or
There
because
is an
what I'm saying,
expectation.
it sounds like some of you guys are okay with a woman paying 50% or half of the.
I
I'm
won't accept
perfectly
it.
fine.
I
I'm
won't
perfectly
accept
like
it.
even
Right,
It
if
so
depends
that's what I'm
on
saying.
when.
even if you
Some people
pay
are okay
and
with
if
it.
she
Definitely
slips you the money back,
like
like
we going
yo,
to Ruth's
thanks
Chris,
for
you paying
paying.
50.
It doesn't matter. Like yo, like you have
Uh,
like if you want to do that, that's fine. That shows like I'll take what you want to do into consideration. I'll always let you have half of the
right.
role.
I
And it
mean, to
doesn't
kind of
bother
like
me.
say my dating experience when I was younger, like to Faye's point, I didn't realize that small was actually ideal. When I was thinking of dating, I was thinking of finding like a nice restaurant to take my date to, and I was paying more than $50 plus. Because by the time you have one, two drinks, I mean, when I was single, things were a little bit cheaper, but now things are crazy. And by the time you have two drinks each, you're talking about $100 bill, easy,
$100
right?
right there.
So, um,
So let
so
me ask
yeah,
you a question
but yeah, go ahead.
with that, and this will be my last question. So let's say you spend $150 or $300 on a meal, and you had the best experience, right? The
Right.
ambiance was great. The food was great to the point that you had a conversation about the food. It sparked conversations about what foods they like, what restaurants they like. You had a 5-course meal, right? And they talk about the desserts they like. They talk about a whole bunch of different things. Are you paying for a meal or are you paying for an experience?
I mean,
Both.
Definitely the
it's a
experience.
good question. Yeah,
Both.
I
Definitely
mean,
both.
but yeah, for me it
This
was.
man
I mean,
said
because
both.
Both.
when I was single, I was paying. I paid when I was single. I was paying. I mean, that's what I was trying to say. I was paying for those dates. I didn't take half or my going into those dates. I knew I was gonna pay, so I was always
Right.
prepared for it.
Right.
So yeah, to answer your question, Chunky, I was paying for both. Yeah, is the experience and interaction and open that the relationship or whatever the interaction goes to the next level, like we can hang out again sometime, right? Or you
Yeah.
get to know each other a little bit later. So,
Mhm.
but
No, for
yeah, I
sure.
mean, it's such a
Both.
To each its
interesting.
own. That's what I would say. Like we all different
Both.
perspectives. We we dated differently. And like I let like
Both.
if you want to pay, go ahead and pay. It didn't bother me. It saved me money for the next time we went out, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like
I like being upfront. At the end of the day, that's what
mhm,
matters, right?
yep.
And if if you feel that tension and like you can talk about it with that person, that's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But as soon as you do, then they judge you, then it's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's like you're right. Like obviously everybody's perspective might be different, but at the end of the day, it's like being able to have those conversations up front is so valuable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it saves you so much. Once again, with
So
Francis
much
saying,
money and
day
time.
Yeah.
one,
It's both
peacocking.
for me,
Yeah,
You
yeah.
man.
about this or what? No? Get the
Be-
fuck out.
Real talk, like a great person can make a shitty meal great, in my opinion,
Oh,
because at that
absolutely.
point, you're just embracing the time you have with that person. So to answer that question, you're really paying for both because, I mean, obviously the food is top notch. That's a plus right there, right? Even not much. Someone that can complement that situation, then even better. But I'm just saying it's not going to be my first date.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
Definitely
to
not
each,
my first
like I
date.
said, to each his own. If you decide to go to McDonald's and not Ruth's Chris, this is what it is. And
Not McDonald's though.
the
Come
whole
on,
thing,
you're
like
better than
no
that.
one's gonna judge you for that, right? And if you fall into
Right.
that trap,
You're
like I'm
gonna
gonna
get
be
judged.
judged for the place that I go
You're gonna
to.
get judged. You're gonna get judged. Let's be real. You're gonna get
But
judged.
what you just said, like one person can make a shitty meal great, right? So that
Right.
goes without saying, like, you don't care what someone thinks, so you're gonna make it happen. Like, there's
I'm
no
not gonna
judgment there.
intentionally give you a shitty meal. Like, come on, it's different. If I go to a place, oh, it got banging reviews, and the meal turned
Right.
out shitty, that's
But
one
that's
thing.
but that's different, right? So
Yeah, like
yeah,
usually when
but
you
that's
date, you should do a little bit of research, or you should at
exactly
least
take some
like
time to plan it.
invite somebody
Yeah,
to the world that you like. Meaning, like if you like Creole food, you have a great spot that you've gone to, or you like Thai food, you pull up there. You know what I mean? Like you usually like that's the way like I think about dating is like I invite
absolutely.
people into my world. Obviously, you know, early on it's just like, you know, middle ground type of thing and building friendships and relationship, and then evolving from there. But yeah, like
sure.
I think yeah, it's like digging in and doing research and actually like, you know, planning things.
You
Yeah,
gotta
Yeah.
know
because
what I mean.
honestly, the woman for you is not concerned about what you spend in. It's about, did you take the
No.
time to plan, arrange? Did you think
But
about her, what she likes, her interests? Those are the things that they're really looking for
There
at
are
the
some
end of
women
the
that
day.
just likes dudes that fly by the seat of their pants. What do you want to do? I don't know what's going
there
this
are
way.
some,
And
yeah.
then he's just like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Facts.
Like he's decisive.
Facts.
There are
Yeah,
women that just
men,
like you
real
don't
men.
think about anything.
Real
Like
men.
Decisive.
You said
Okay,
what?
actually, I have a question, and we
Well, good
can.
luck to you.
I'll let Chunky decide to wrap it up if. But
If we can answer
so
this question in 30 seconds or less, I am 100% about it.
yo, man, sit down.
I am sitting. You gave me the
Yo. Okay, so my question is,
Yeah,
how
shoot.
has being like a traditional man and the modern day man, like how has that influence or impacted the way you operate, especially like in the dating world or even moving in society today? How has that impacted you guys?
Gotta define both first.
Take a pause. Let's think about it. And I am adamant about this because it shows how, as men, we think on our feet. We have 10 seconds. Think about your answer. Spit the answer out in 40 seconds or less. Clear, concise, decisive. Count it down. 9.
Oh, I can answer that one pretty
8.
easy.
So I'm not done counting. 7.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, traditional, modern day, let's be real, that's all going to vary depending on who you're talking to. So there's never really, just as a majority of this conversation suddenly turns subjective, it's all subjective, right? So modern day man today is expected to be open. He's expected to be able to vocalize his feelings. He's expected to kind of show the world all that he's going through and whatnot. So in my idea of traditional, based on what I grew up with, you know, which is, we probably would say archaic and not traditional, because today would be the traditional thing, right? Today is the new tradition, being open, being oneself. So it's really how you define it. You got to separate the two. So if by traditional you mean men back in my time, you know, when I was younger, when the men I had to look up to, that was all stoic men. That was all men that kind of dealt with it, pushed through, you know, never complained, never showed weakness, you know, dealt with their traumas. And a lot of times they expressed it in other ways, right? Could that be in not being there for the family function, not showing the mom love, not showing their kids love? It just kind of came out in other different ways. So today's modern day man is slowly becoming the traditional male model. So the two, there has to be some separation there. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like what we consider to be the norms or the standards is what we are essentially going to follow. And for men that have children, if you have a male child, those are the standards that you're probably going to pass on to him as well, regardless of what society is saying, because at the end of the day, you're the leader in your household and you kind of set that influence. Just as we said, that family is an important aspect and everything starts at home. That's where it starts.
Cool.
Right.
Now everybody gets 90 seconds.
I was concise though.
You were concise.
I didn't say you weren't. So.
Yeah, no, for
clock.
me, that's fine. For me, I think it heavily informs, you know, because I think the past informs and the present informs for me. I think it's really that simple. Like I said, even from the outset, I think a real man is somebody that can look at the past, look at the world as it is, internalize what values contribute value to the world around them and apply that. And so I think it's a combination. I definitely think, you know, traditionally, obviously the way I was raised, you know, a lot of values of respect and, you know, there's a lot of positional authority that comes with that. And there's things that I didn't like, right? And so I've essentially like created something that I think is valuable as well, and I continue to apply that. But it's always changing, it's always evolving. But I think, you know, to be concise, it's applying both. It's applying history and the present, and doing it sensitive to the landscape.
You know, Fran.
Yeah, like for me, like the reason I even asked that question was kind of thinking about the, you know, the dating conversation and how,
Mm,
like from a traditional man and the modern day man and what like is expected in the society today. But like I think, you know, Faye kind of hit it in the head. For me, is really kind of taking the good that you see from your parents, the people that, you know, we talked about earlier, like the key most impactful things that kind of drives, you know, those what a man looks like to you. Then you kind of look at in the future and current in the current state of the life we live in, and what are the things about it that you do align with, that aligns with your value, you know, and really kind of mixing both of those, because I think there are great value in the way our parents raised us, and there are
mhm,
some great things the way things are done now. So it's really just
mhm,
finding how do you blend that and do it in a, I guess, in an ideal state that kind of works for you individually, and it impacts the community that surrounds you. So because
Right.
we're talking about being a real man is being a leader, and how can you lead the people around you and take them to that promised land. So it's really what it
Yeah, I
is.
mean, for me, to sum it up, dude, beat my chest. Peacock, you got to pick people up. On the opposite end, you got to put people down. Straight up.
Learn how to
Hey,
fight too.
hey, I
That
mean,
part.
people don't fight them where they just shoot. Learn how to do that too.
Sheesh.
That's important.
Just learn how
Trying
to
to
run.
trying to do time, yeah.
That's
Catch
crazy.
one in the back.
Trying to do time. You're gonna be around some real men now.
Hey,
All day, every
Bruh,
day.
that's
hey,
All
Are those
day.
men though?
man.
that's
It's a-
crazy.
for
Yeah.
those who
Question.
shoot,
Nah,
we'll
I'm
save
not
that for another. So anyway, thank you for rocking with us this season.
being locked
Uh,
up.
For more content or to learn more about the podcast, feel free to check
Uh,
us out at Jerk Joel Off Collar Pod on Instagram. Be sure to like, share, follow, and leave us a review on your preferred streaming platform of choice. Faye, thanks again for joining us. We were super excited that you came through. It's been long anticipated. You
Yeah,
did not
brother.
disappoint.
Thank
Maybe you can
thank
come back
thank
again.
Yeah, would love to,
I mean, you
man.
sure
Thank you
can.
guys
You're
for
over
having me,
6 foot,
for
so
real.
you're more than welcome
It's
to come back
up.
anytime.
It's up anytime. Nah, this was great. This was really fun. Appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Man, thank
Yeah,
you.
Fee, you want to drop your IG
Yeah, man.
tag if you want
What you
to?
got?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is simply_Benedict. Yeah, you can follow me there. I don't ever post, but you know, pull up.
Do it for the gram.
Shares a lot of stuff, but he doesn't post.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
really do.
And
Maybe on
typical-
this trip. Maybe on this trip, I'll post some things.
You should. You
Yeah.
get your followers up. You know, like, hey,
Yeah.
thanks for following. Here's one post.
Yeah, facts. Exactly.
All right. Thanks again. And
No,
as
I appreciate
always,
you guys.
peace.
Peace.